Professional Women's Club. She served as organist at the South Sound and North Side United Churches, as well as the Moravian Church, and at various times she taught adult Sunday school. She cultivated a happy family life centered on the church. Generous of her time, Miss Sybil thought that she could not do enough for her children and for the young people that she had been involved with in her life. To Gordon, Christopher, and your families, we are eternally grateful for you sharing your beloved mother with our community and country through each stage of your lives. And even now, in this most personal and moving moment of her passing. It is an honor and privilege to have known Miss Sybil. Many of us here today and in the wider community will dearly miss her friendship and wise counsel. In her life, a life centered around God, family, career, and community, a woman determined to always do her best, whether she liked the job at hand or not. We see a role model of Caymanian excellence. She will remain a role model for this and future generations. On May 10th, 2022, the Cayman Islands lost a national hero, a phenomenal Caymanian woman, a stalwart believer in democracy, a trailblazing woman who helped to better the country and transform its governance, a loving mother who exemplified a life well lived, and most of all, the Cayman Islands lost a true friend. In the words of George Eliot, "Our dead are never dead to us until we have forgotten them." And it was playwright Thornton Wilder who said, "The highest tribute to the dead is not grief, but gratitude." I am quite certain that Miss Sybil will never be forgotten. She will live on in the minds and in the hearts of the Caymanian people, forever grateful to have her as our first female national hero. We can honor her by always doing our best. Whatever the task, whatever the role, whether we like it or not. On behalf of the government and the people of the Cayman Islands, and indeed on behalf of my own family, I extend sincere condolences to Miss Sybil's children, grandchildren, her surviving brother, extended relatives, and so many, many friends. May she sleep in eternal peace.
Family, allow me a minute, please, to offer condolences on behalf of my family and myself. And I've been asked by various people to extend condolences. I do so on their behalf. They would do who they are, the Minister of Tourism and his family, and of course the constituency of Georgetown Central, people from Bordentown, and of course people from my district that knew Miss Sybil well. I followed Miss Sybil's work from an early age. Just in my early teens because she did such an outstanding work, as has been detailed, some of it at least. We couldn't do it all here today. She was an inspiration to us as young people in our island-wide youth organization, our Christian Endeavor Society. She was a stalwart toe and reminded us of its motto and our theme song. Reverend Magoo, you might have forgotten that, but for Christ and the church, we pledge our best endeavor to work for the Lord. We promise to be true. That was our theme song. I believe that organization and its senior members of the day, Ms. Sybil, Mr. Harry McCoy, Nurse Anna Bush, her aunt, and Nurse Pinky Bush, and she was the boss of everything. And Ms. Ione McLaughlin and people like Mrs. Grace Wright all set the right examples. I belonged to the Wesleyan Church, but my girlfriend belonged to the United Church. And so I drifted there and became a member for some years. All of them, those persons, set the right examples and worked with us and helped us to keep us on the straight and narrow, to assist us still down through life. Christian Endeavor was, the United Church was a little bit more liberal than my church, which was very conservative, still very conservative. And so they allowed us to dance, and of course under the watchful eye of the adults, like Ms. Sybil, like Ms. Ione, when we had island-wide things. And we had island-wide meetings here in this church and in South Sound and throughout the other districts. I used to like, and West Bay did like to go South Sound. We were always well fed. But I recall one day, twice it happened, I missed the transport. I was supposed to sing. Ms. Sybil was supposed to play one of the songs. And I got there, got a lift to Delworth Station, walked a little ways up, past, and got another ride to the church and said, well, I made it. But guess what? Nurse Pinky was at the door. Where you going? Don't you know you late? You was on this program, but you late and it's past where you were supposed to sing. Happened, Miss Sybil saw me down there, and she said, no, it's late, but he can come and do his part for West Bay. That happened again. And when it happened the second time, some months or probably a year later, Miss Sybil said to me, you know, I can't save you this time. And Miss Nurse Pinky, as I said, she was the boss. She owned South Sound. But those were the people that left that impression on us, their rules, their behavior, what they offered us. And so Miss Sybil watched me for years as she found out my interest in music and heard me sing, and she taught me the song that I'm going to sing today, which she wanted done. And I watched her sitting as I did for many years, from my teens into adult life in the gallery of the assembly. And you know, she took me aside and said, you know, you're the only one that's been here for days and weeks. You come here and nobody else comes. She said, it's going to keep you in good state one of these days. Then, when we fought the forces and got our own presiding officer, Premier, she wasn't the majority choice. And when the majority of us chose her, and I went to see her, asked her if she would take the post, she did ask is it a majority choice? And I said, no, Miss Sybil, the government, the executive got to be different from us on the back bench, so they kept their mouth shut. And we chose her. She told me to come back a few days, and she said, I will do so. And she was an excellent speaker. I know I tried or tired her patience often. She didn't have no favorites. Hers was, yes, issues in political life or of political life, but in the chair, hers was rules of parliament. She would call me into her chamber and say, you have tried my patience, McKeever. I can't give you no more room, and I don't want to name you, so be reminded. Well, at times I listened, and other times I had my own agenda. And one time she called, she sent the Sarge to get me, bring him to my chambers. And she said to me, this is it. Well, the battles were many, and the opponents strong. So I ducked and weaved, but she was straight, and the rules were not bent. And I recall, she said, don't you remember, McKeever, when they and Benson had a big fight? Benson and Truman had a big fight. And those days, there was a lot of chat premier. You got it easy. I'm a good speaker too. And she said to me, McKeever, stay out of this. She took me in her chamber. She said, stay out of this. She said, don't you remember our theme song for Christ and the church? We pledge our best endeavors to work for the Lord. I said, Miss Sybil, but it's not church. I said, Miss Sybil, this is not church. You see that battle going on out there? And she said, you stay out of it. Remember our teachings in the Christian Endeavor movement. So who could we have chosen to be a living national hero, but a light that shone brightly for us to recognize, and as our own Caymanian woman, a patriot, good mother, a great civil servant, and worker like we never seen, behind the scenes mostly. She was that to us. And I remember when we were chosen a national hero, that some wrote and say, well, where did Cayman come off at? Where are you coming to get a living national hero? I said, well, maybe all you did, but ours is alive. And that we're doing what my mother said, give her the roses when she could see it. I had to answer Douglas on that. But my aunt said, and she was 98 at that year, she said, who better to give it to than our own Caymanian woman? And she said, and a bush at that too. And so we were proud to do that, to pave the way so that young Caymanian women and men would see the substance that Sybil McLaughlin brought to the forefront and could do. She didn't start, go to college and come back and think you had to be the boss. She worked her way, learned, and led by example. So this is her song that she taught me. And when she requested that I sing today, If I Were a Voice. If I were a voice, a persuasive voice that could travel the wide world through, I would fly on the beams of the morning light and speak to men with a gentle might and tell them to be true. I would fly over land and the sea, where'er a human heart might be, telling a tale or singing a song in praise of the right and in blame of the wrong. I would fly, I would fly, I would fly over land and sea. If I were a voice, a consoling voice, I would fly on the wings of the air. The homes of sorrow and guilt I'd seek, and calm and truthful words I'd speak to save them from despair. I would fly o'er the crowded town and drop like the happy sunlight down into the hearts of suffering men and teach them to look up again. I would fly, I would fly, I would fly o'er the crowded town. If I were a voice, a convincing voice, I would travel with the wind, and wherever I saw the nations torn by warfare, jealousy, spite, or scorn, or hatred of their kind, I would fly on the thunder crash and into their blinded bosom flash. Then with their evil thoughts subdued, I teach them Christian brotherhood. I would fly, I would fly, I would fly on the thunder crash. If I were a voice, an immortal voice, I would fly the earth around, and wherever man to his idols bowed, I'd publish in notes both long and loud the gospel's joyful sound. I would fly on the wings of day, proclaiming peace on my worldwide way, bidding the saddened
earth rejoice. If I were a voice, an immortal voice, I would fly, I would fly, I would fly on the wings of day.
And then she would call me up and say, McKeever, fix your collar.
Good afternoon, church. I have the honor and privilege to have been asked to make a few remarks and to read the tribute from the family. Before I do so, I wish to publicly offer condolences to Gordon, Chris, and the rest of the family on my behalf of my family, and also on behalf of the members of the opposition. The leader of the opposition has specifically asked that I do so. A little known fact about me is that I spent my early years in South Sound, and indeed had a very close relationship with Miss Sybil's family, so much so that her uncle, Captain Carl, sought to adopt me, him and Gracie, when Daddy announced that we were moving to Crew Road. And that relationship was around for as long as he was alive. Captain Carl thought that I was his boy, and I spent many, many happy days in South Sound growing up. And of course, also being an East Ender, I'm McLaughlin from East End. It means that Mr. Delworth and those are distant cousins of my father. So there is that relationship. I've thought about what I would say in terms of remarks, and I knew that given the long list of achievements that Ms. Sybil has, that she would be more than adequately eulogized, not just here, but over the decades to come. The Premier, I thought, delivered an excellent tribute on behalf of the government, and I'm sure that the life story which Mr. Lem Hurston will read will again make people aware of really the breadth and depth of her incredible contribution during her life. One of my great regrets personally is that I never got to serve in the Legislative Assembly while she was Speaker. I was elected the following term in 2000. But I did pay a lot of attention to what was going on in those days. And I'm not sure everyone realizes what a great, though wry sense of humor Miss Sybil had. I remember, perhaps imperfectly, but I remember a young Kurt Tibbetts in the Legislative Assembly waxing long and lyrical about some issue. And in those days, there were no time limits for speeches in the House. On one occasion, my late uncle, Haig Borden, spoke for 2 days. So Miss Sybil was very conscious of this and how members could abuse the lack of any restriction. And so there was a bill before the House, and Kurt was giving the government a lot of trouble with it. And he was, I wonder if the government knows this, and I wonder if the minister read the bill, and I wonder, 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 and I wonder. Finally, Ms. Sybil said, "Honorable member, you have been wondering all afternoon. Not just wondering, but wandering. Would you please stop wondering and wandering and get back to the bill before the House?" The thing that I find most impressive, among the many impressive things that Ms. Sybil has done in her life, is that she was able to do those things in the era in which she did. We should not forget that up until 1958, women in this country didn't even have the right to vote, let alone to stand for public office. When she started work as a typist for government, she couldn't vote. The other thing, and I'm so conscious of this because my mother was 1 year older than her, so they lived in the same time, is the censure that wives and mothers faced for leaving their children at home or neglecting their children, as the community often felt they did. I know how deeply that hurt my mother over her lifetime. But Ms. Sybil, because I saw the same thing in my mother, felt and realized that there was something, some greater purpose in their lives beyond being a wife and a mother, both of which they regarded as very, very important. But their lives, they felt, had more purpose, more to offer the country, more to offer our people. In this day and age, I suppose they would be considered, that would be considered a purpose-driven life. It is incredible what Ms. Sybil was able to do in that era where there was real, I don't want to say prejudice, but I can't think of a better word, against women holding jobs of a certain level. She fought through all of those things in her quiet, determined way without seeming to cause any real waves. And I know, because she said so to me many years ago, that she never in her wildest dreams thought she would be a national hero. And so instead of trying to talk about all the things that she did, which other people are doing and have done and will do much better than I can, I just want to share with you a poem which has meant a great deal to me in my life. And when I think of Ms. Sybil and her approach to life and the things she achieved in this life, I don't think that anyone, certainly not me, could say better than Longfellow did in his famous poem, A Psalm of Life. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returneth, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow finds us farther than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb-driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within, and God overhead. Lives of great men and women all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing, leave behind us footprints in the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a distressed and shipwrecked sister or brother, seeing, shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. Now, the tribute from the family. You were Miss Sybil to many people, but to us, Mama, Sybil, and Grammy. You were everything to us, the glue that held a dispersed family together. You were a loyal wife, a devoted niece, a loving mother, a wonderful mother-in-law, and finally, after waiting for many years, a doting grandmother. While you were one of the early working mothers, you always found the time to go fishing with us, to help us with schoolwork, and to ensure we were kept on the straight and narrow on Sunday mornings. You took us to school on your bike on your way to work in the morning and drilled into us the importance of education from day one. We grew up in South Sound, surrounded by loving family and in an environment where everyone looked out for each other. Bibi and Tani helped provide structure for our days and fully supported you in your career aspirations. When our father returned from sea during our teenage years, the two of you finally had a chance to live a normal life. We saw you settling into a happily married life where there was room for you to continue developing your career while Daddy ran the Esso gas station. Your strong focus on education resulted in us, Chris, graduating from flight school and becoming a pilot at Cayman Airways, and Gordon obtaining a degree in civil engineering from Leeds University and eventually owning his own construction company. After a nearly 40-year career, you and Daddy built your dream house on Queens Highway, preparing to enjoy some much-deserved retirement time. Now, for you, of course, retirement simply meant time to do something else. You fully immersed yourself in civic life and focused on giving back whenever you could. Sadly, just a few years after retirement, Daddy passed away in late 1987. We saw how this loss shook you to the core, and you temporarily lost your bearings. But as the strong woman you were, you eventually regained your strength and were back fully participating in life. While your loss was profound, and you continued to miss Daddy for the rest of your life, you gained 2 daughters-in-law and 2 granddaughters in the following decade. In this same time frame, your dear aunts Bibi and Tani passed away. They were the anchor and soul of the family in South Sound. As they had given to you in earlier life, as they got older, you gave back to them, checking on them daily and bringing them homemade warm meals. We shared your joy and were so proud of you when you were asked to again join the government service as the first Speaker of the House. You managed to handle your new role while also becoming a grandmother for the first time. You doted on your granddaughter and left her with wonderful memories of carefree days spent on the beach at East End. You continued to be the person who managed to do everything, remaining engaged in church life, contributing to multiple organizations, traveling, and finding time for family visits, and your second granddaughter. We often wondered when you actually slept. Only when you reached your late 70s did you start to slow down to a pace we could keep up with. Church was an important part of your life to the degree that you became a lay pastor later in life. There was no doubt of the strength of your faith, and you preferred to show the right path by example. Paraphrasing from Luke chapter 12, verse 48. To she whom much is given, much is expected. You were given the drive and the talent to succeed. Your aunts, your husband and sons, and your community supported you to allow you to achieve. You understood this. And when you rose to the top, you knew it was now your time to give back. You dedicated much of your life to helping others rise up, not for the glory of it, but because it was the right thing to do. This is your true legacy and the inspiration for which we are grateful. Mama, Sybil, Grammy, we love you and will miss you forever. Rest in peace, knowing you lived a significant life. May we all be so fortunate. The family would like to extend their sincere thanks to the many people who have cared for Ms. Sybil over the past decade. Diane was by her side for most of those years and took care of her as if she were her own mother. Thank you, Diane, for your compassionate and loving care. The family would like to thank the Cayman Islands government, in particular the Protocol Office, for organizing this very respectful and ceremonious official send-off for Ms. Sybil. Thank you also to today's speakers and soloists, the staff at Emsley Memorial Church, the Lions Club of Grand Cayman, the Uniformed Services, Borden Funeral Service, and the many volunteers that contributed to today. The family extends their heartfelt thanks to the greater Cayman community for your condolences and support during this difficult time.
Good afternoon. On behalf of all of Grammy's family, I'd like to thank everyone in attendance today, as well as each person who sent their well wishes and condolences. My grandmother was loved by many. It meant something different to so many people. But to me, she was always Grammy first. She was my confidant, protector, role model, hero, and best friend. She would have been terribly embarrassed by how much of a fuss was being made over her today, but she impacted so many lives and was loved and cherished by anyone who had the opportunity to meet her. She was a mother, sister, and grandmother for many outside of her family. You only had to meet her for a second to feel the love and kindness that poured out of her, and she always had more than enough to go around. She was the epitome of grace and kindness. She was incredibly funny and always loved to have a good laugh. One of the many passions she passed on to me was her love of music. I remember when I was a child, I would hand her a very simple piece of sheet music, and I was always in awe of how she was able to add on to it and turn it into something extraordinary. That's what dedication and passion can do. Take something simple and turn it into something extraordinary. That's what she did every day for me. She showed me the beauty and magic that lives in the seemingly ordinary. She went through many hardships in her life, but she never allowed these challenges to overcome the brilliant light that she carried in her heart. She loved and cared about each person she met, and so many that she didn't. But more than anything else, she loved her family. It was probably because of the hardships that she faced from early on that she knew the true value of family and loved ones. She was not a person who put stock in the materialistic. She learned early on what most of us take a lifetime to learn. It's not what you have that makes life worth living. It's the people in your life that bring you joy and happiness. I will forever be incredibly honored and proud to call her my grandmother. She taught me how to show love and kindness to every being, to always have empathy, to do what is right even when it's often the more difficult path, and how to love deeper than I ever thought was possible. To know her was to receive one of the greatest gifts, and to love her and be loved by her is a feeling I don't think I can ever find the words for. Today we celebrate the life of an incredible, kind, funny, beautiful, and loving matriarch, not just to our family, but to these beautiful islands and all of its people. Her memory, love, and legacy will live on forever through each of us. We all have some humongous shoes to fill, but I've already met so many friends who started that journey long ago. She would be proud of so many here, and I look forward to being able to carry her legacy on and seeing the next generations do the same.
Sybil Ione McLaughlin nee Bush was born in Mobile, Alabama on the 24th of August, 1928, to Captain Charles Christopher Bush, Jr. and Lottie Verona Morton of Cayman Brack. Mobile was Captain Bush's home port while sailing, and this followed a brief stint in the U.S. Army during the First World War. Sybil had an older brother, Charles, and sister Elizabeth, and a brother, James, who is here today. And the young children were taken to live with the family in South Sound following the sudden death of their father. Economic circumstances forced the relocation. The family home consisted of grandparents, Captain Charles Christopher Bush Sr., his wife Annie, Elizabeth, and their two younger daughters, Annie and Roberta. Aunt Annie quickly became referred to as Tanny, and Roberta simply as B, or Aunt BB. Tanny became a nurse, whilst Aunt BB ran the South Sound Postal Agency, as well as running the home. The love and care and affection of the grandparents and grandaunts provided the support and nurturing the family needed. Community life then largely revolved around activities of the church. Weekly gatherings of the Christian Endeavor Society and church services on Sundays were compulsory in most families. Tanny and BB's brother, Captain Carl Bush, kept the family supplied with fish, while BB grew ground provisions and vegetables and raised chickens, all in the back garden. Life was pleasant and peaceful, even for the poorest of families. Grandfather, Captain Charles Bush, owned a Model T Ford, and this was one of the first vehicles to be brought to Grand Cayman. In November 1932, at only 4 years of age, Sybil, along with everyone else in the Cayman Islands, experienced the worst ever hurricane. Not only was the family vegetable and ground provision garden wiped out, but the vessel, the Diamond, owned by Sybil's grandfather, was destroyed, and that was the main source of family income. As chronicled in her biography published in 2015, Sybil explained that Caymanians have had close ties with Nicaragua, particularly the entry port of Bluefields, for many years. The turtling trade was the main driver of this connection. A small Caymanian community had sprung up there, and Sybil's uncle, James Bush, one of her father's brothers, owned and operated a small hotel named the St. James Hotel. Uncle James's sister Ella assisted in the managing of the hotel, and on a visit to the family in Grand Cayman, she offered to take 4-year-old Sybil back to Bluefields to ease the economic recovery from the storm damage. Ella and her husband, Juan Alfredo Lopez, loved Sybil and treated her as their own. Here, Sybil became bilingual and fluent in Spanish. She attended a kindergarten school just across the street from the hotel where they lived and attended the local Moravian church. Here, she developed an interest in organ music. Mama Ella returned Sybil to the family in South Sound when she was 8 years old, yet another challenging change in her circumstances, and to receive a more English education. At that time, Grandfather Bush was using his car as a taxi, and new roads from Georgetown to Northside and East End had been built. Aunt BB got her driver's license to assist the family with transportation and income. Sybil attended the Georgetown Government Elementary School, and she and her siblings walked the 3 miles each day, and someone accompanied them home on a bicycle, usually Tanny. Here, Sybil's fascination with dictionaries and research that led to a wealth of knowledge, education, and travel experiences. She read extensively, she excelled, and grew in confidence. As she approached the normal school-leaving age of 14, discussions began about the best approach to achieving higher education for this bright, motivated young lady. Once again, Aunt Ella stepped in to assist. Many changes had taken place in Nicaragua and in Aunt Ella's life. Uncle James had passed away, the hotel had been sold, and Aunt Ella and her husband had moved to the gold mines near Siona. Sybil lived with Ella and her husband and attended a small high school to continue her education. During this period, Sybil was confirmed in the Moravian Church and began to take a more active role. Not finding the education sufficiently challenging for Sybil, arrangements were made for a transfer to a Baptist college in Managua. This was a co-ed boarding school. It was while attending college that Sybil received the sad news of the passing of her grandfather. A while later, further sad news arrived of the passing of her grandmother and brother Charles. After 3 years of education, Sybil graduated with a first-class honors diploma. She returned to Grand Cayman, and happily, this time she was home to stay. Just before her 18th birthday, as you heard, she rode her bicycle to the commissioner's office and began a career in the civil service as a clerk typist. Sybil married a young, handsome police sergeant, Delworth McLaughlin, from East End in early 1949. Both of their careers progressed, and they became very proud parents of 2 sons, Christopher Vivian Delworth and Gordon Alfred Malcolm. Delworth embarked on a career as a seaman to support the family. He would later find an opportunity in 1968 to become a businessman, and for many years was the proud owner of Delworth's Esso on North Church Street. Sybil immersed herself in work, parenting, and in church. She never missed an opportunity to improve her knowledge and education, taking numerous courses of study along the way. Promotions were infrequent, but Sybil found herself serving as the secretary to the commissioner, a prestigious position where important decisions were being made for the development of the islands. Then constitutional development came on the horizon, and an executive council had to be established. Sybil was invited to serve as the secretary and clerk to this new body. The next natural progression was to move from the executive to the political branch, and here again, Sybil made history in becoming the first clerk of the Legislative Assembly. And as you've heard, she was also the first woman in the Commonwealth to hold such a position. Sybil ably applied her knowledge and experience to establish procedures and train staff to perform their duties under the first written constitution in 1959, and participated in the design and construction of the Legislative Assembly building, which was opened in July 1972. She traveled extensively, attending conferences and gatherings of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, and successfully completed several overseas attachments to the House of Commons and other regional and international bodies. She was an honorary life member since 2003 of the Commonwealth Magistrates and Judges Association. She played a leading role in 1982 in the planning and execution of the celebrations surrounding the 150th anniversary of parliamentary government, as well as the historic first royal visit of Her Majesty the Queen and Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, in 1983, as well as the second royal visit in 1994. She was made a member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, MBE, in June 1967. Sybil retired from the position of Clerk of the Legislative Assembly in April 1984. She and Delworth moved to live in a new home on the Queens Highway in East End to enjoy retirement. He would do some fishing and farming, and she would continue to serve in the church and other community interests. She became a Justice of the Peace in February 1985 and served honorably. She was a founding member of and very active in the Business and Professionals Women Club. She also undertook the translation of Spanish documents for persons needing this service. Sadly, less than 5 years into retirement, Delworth passed away suddenly in November 1987. Coping with grief and was a challenge, but Sybil found consolation and relief in engaging and in helping and supporting others. Among the many agencies that she has supported are the Crisis Center, the Legal Befrienders Program. She completed a course in counseling and became a lay pastor in the United Church. Clearly, taking it easy was not in Sybil's DNA. On June 1st, 1992, Sybil attended the birth of her first grandchild, Natasha Leanne Stroll McLaughlin. Natasha, as you just heard from her, spent a lot of time in Cayman and became very close to her grandmother. On March 21st, 1997, Sybil was also present for the birth of her second grandchild, Nikita Nana Stroll McLaughlin. The two girls are the continuation of Sybil's legacy. They both have very big shoes to walk in. In February 1991, Sybil became the first Speaker of the Legislative Assembly and served until she hung up her gown and wig for the last time on the 27th of September, 1996. On the 9th of November, 1996, she was made a national hero. Sybil never took the challenges of her life too seriously, and amidst the many challenges, she found time to play tennis, games, and have some fun with friends in all good humor. She was a member of the Sunrise Rotary Club until she retired in 2013. She was patron to the AIDS Foundation. She received an honorary doctorate from the University College of the Cayman Islands in November 2016. About 20 years ago, the Moravian Church started to worship in their own new sanctuary in Prospect, and Sybil was happy to join in their services. Having served in numerous capacities in the United Church at South Sound, East End, and Northside, and the Moravian Church more recently, this remarkable and courageous giant of a lady passed to be with her Maker and Creator on Tuesday, the 10th of May, 2022. Left to mourn her passing are her brother, Dr. James Bush, sister-in-law Lisa and their family, two sons, Chris and Gordon, and their wives, Suzanne and Heather, two granddaughters, Natasha and Nikita, cousin Captain Paul Hurlston, caregivers Diane and Julene, and many other relatives, and a host of friends worldwide. May her soul rest in peace.
On behalf of my family, here and abroad, I want to express our heartfelt gratitude to the family of Miss Sybil and let you know that our love and prayers are with you in this very difficult time. I want to express also the sympathy of my brother, the Reverend Harry Bodden, who was her pastor when she lived in East End, and her very faithful Scrabble partner for many, many years until she was no longer able to carry out that entertainment. Both of us worshiped at the Moravian Church in Prospect, and her contribution there is something that all of us will appreciate for the rest of our lives. I have been asked to read by the family a poem to conclude the service. It's a poem that was chosen by Queen Elizabeth II for the funeral program for her mother, the Queen Mother. It is a very fitting poem for this occasion. You can shed tears that she is gone, or you can smile because she has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that she will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that she has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see her, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember her and only that she's gone, or you can cherish her memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what she would want, smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. May the soul of our beloved national hero, Honorable Sybil Ione McLaughlin, MBE, JP, rest in eternal peace, and may her example be emulated throughout this island and its people for generations to come. Thank you.
Please stand. Let us pray. Cast thy burden unto the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Father of mercies and God of all comfort, look in thy tender love and compassion on thy sorrowing servants, especially the family of our sister Sybil Ione McLaughlin. Enable us to find in thee our refuge and our strength, and to know more assuredly the love of Christ, which passes human understanding. O Holy Spirit, the Paraclete and Comforter, as we have watched the faithfulness of Miss Sybil, witnessing a good confession, fighting the good fight, finishing her course, we pray thee, let now thy servant Sybil McLaughlin depart in peace, according to thy word, that she may cross the Jordan into thy loving arms, O Lord. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home. Now may the blessing of God the Father Almighty, the love of his Son Jesus Christ, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with the family and all of us, now and forevermore. Amen.
you.